Hello. All right. So this video over here of I got a band-aid. I was holding the bone while the dog was chewing on it because she gets a better grip. My thumb went up and she bit on it and I was like, ow, and then she was all like, oh, I'm sorry. And there's a little puncture wound too. But anyway, this diagram and video, it was a very good video, Hythlodays. You definitely captured my understanding of what Gary is saying. And it brings us back to, as you said, the this it'll not be like a laser level, it'll be a dot on the wall. The light will be actually traveling this way, according to Gary. It'll be a dot there because the light's hitting it perpendicular, that wall, but the end geometric result is that the laser is deflected. If you line a sight along with the laser, it'll be deflected. And this is that whole experiment that I was trying to challenge Gary to do, that he is sometimes saying he will do, and is getting the equipment for. Laser goggles is a good idea because the Earth is moving, so the laser will be deflected. Also, the Earth, the apparatus is fixed to the Earth, and it's going to rotate around in a circle. And even though it's all askew, it's going to mean 180 revolutions. So, there's flying through space in some direction, but since it's spinning every 12 hours, that direction will flip from east to west, right? And since you're on the edge of this spinning thing, and the velocity is often, some angled direction from that. Now, we're flying through the galaxy. The solar system is not in the same plane as its orbit around the galaxy. It's like 60 degrees, I think, something like that. So it's a lot. But whatever, it's going to go through a full circle of deflection every day. And the projection of that on a screen that's fixed to the Earth along with the fixed laser is going to be that it's going to etch a little ellipse every day. Okay, the speed, I was just double checking, but the speed around the sun is about a 10,000th, 1/10,000th of the speed of light. The speed around the center of the galaxy, which maybe is harder to say people have to accept, that's 1,000th of the speed of light. Now, 1/10,000th of the speed of light, that's very reliable. That's the speed of the distance we go in a year around the sun. But remember, we're spinning every day. So in one day, we're going in basically the same direction throughout that whole day. The path of the Earth is more or less straight through the day. There's a little tiny curve because it's going in a big circle, but the circle's so big in one day, it's just 365th of the circle. So way less than a degree. What would a 60th of a degree or something? And the Earth is rotating every day, so that deflection will go in this little ellipse during the day. And 1/10,000th of the speed of light might not sound like much of the speed of light, but the deflection is a ratio. It's proportional, right? If you're going half the speed of light, then that deflection is supposed to be, for every meter forward, it's going to go a half a meter to the side. So at 1/10,000th, it's doing the same thing, and a mile is 5,000 plus feet. So at 1/10,000th of the speed of light, it's going to be deflected a whole 6 inches over the course of a mile. And if you bounce the light, with a relatively small distance, you're going to see you don't need 6 inches. You just need a 1/4 inch or something to tell. And relative to these other speeds, like around the galaxy or just randomly through whatever this frame of reference is, space, there's a good chance the deflection should be greater. If it's 1,000th of the speed of light, then that's actually 5 feet every mile. 5 feet, right? So with that velocity, becomes very detectable in much less than a mile. Now, Gary seems to have understand that the spread of the laser beam, the divergence of it, is a problem. But I had told him this when I was describing the experiment in the first place. The divergence of the beam is a problem after, even a quarter mile, depending on the beam you've got. These little tiny beams diverge more. But I told him what you need is a beam collimator to make it a bigger beam. The bigger the spot, the less the divergence. So if you put your laser through a piece of optics that makes the beam, an inch, then it might be 5 inches when it goes a whole mile or something. But if it's moving 4 inches, you can tell. This takes a more powerful laser to be able to see the spot and things like that. Still, these are all very over-the-counter laser energies and so on that we're talking about. So it's a very noticeable or testable thing, basically. And remember, even with a big laser spot, since that laser spot will keep its shape as a circle, if you're very careful, you could take a very big laser spot. If you were to draw the circle, there it is on the paper, and you were able to draw the circle big enough, you could calculate the center and see that center moving. You could have a big 4-inch spot and still see the center moving just a quarter of an inch back and forth in an ellipse. So the other thing is Gary's obviously coming on his denial that the light is imparted with the momentum the same way a bullet is. Well, the issue with the photon is that as a particle, it does do that. Water waves move away from a boat the way Gary's talking about, and photons don't, and that's why everybody's weirded out by the particle wave duality of it. When it is shot from that laser, it is imparted with, in addition to its forward velocity, this sideways velocity of the emitter. Now, what I think Gary is just very stubborn. He gets it and then doesn't get it. And he talks about time dilation now and people being asleep, which is just funny to me, the amount of the psychological metaphors in use, cognitive, will-based, animal-based mentality metaphors. But anyway, so so it's what you would expect from water waves. What if there was a medium, he's expecting that there is something like this at rest medium, and yet it's weird because particles don't behave that way going through water. That you expect a wave to behave, and it's like, why should light be a particle to Gary? Why is that some sort of good thing? Why is the invisible men of a virtual, unseen virtual particle, or other correlations or geometric abstractions about, wave propagation? Those invisible men are bad, but invisible red and blue arrows is just what you need to explain things. That's an odd part. The main thing is that we have an experiment that Gary could do with real world detectable numbers in a hobbyist lab. You don't need a big $1 million NSF lab, and we could, and this could be checked. It seems like you're taking Gary at his word that he's going to try to discuss things more civilly, right? Not necessarily more amiably, And I hope that is the case. I, for one, do not like being called glib. I don't really mind it because, you know, I don't have a thick skin, but it is like a metal mesh. And so that's fine, but I don't really like people denting even or trying to pierce that with this glib thing. I've been through some heavy shit. I don't think I'm glib. Um, so very good description. I thought it was very good approach. Just like you're right, Gary was good to actually draw a picture of what he thinks we're saying. Um, and you drew a very good picture. Gary's prediction is that it goes off this way and makes a spot on the wall, while the photons really are going the direction that the laser was pointed. And we're saying like this angle is what a person on the ground will see. This with this hole moving over here just in time, and then what people on the ship will see is the thing going straight up. So it's a very good summary of what we're discussing, and my emphasis obviously has been that this all means this is correct. This is I'm sure this is what Gary's saying versus what we're saying, and there's an experiment to determine the difference. So I think the main thing is to get a series of updates on Gary's progress doing that experiment. Now I've thought of doing the experiment myself. I priced sufficient lasers and beam collators at around $500. Thought a little bit about whether it's safe. Like, I'm at a lake, right? So there's a third of a mile right across to a rock there. I could go over and put a mirror on that rock, bounce it back to myself. Now, is that legal with a laser that's powerful enough to see at a half mile? Maybe. Is it safe? If I'm watching carefully for boats, we don't have that much traffic. Um, Theoretically, I'd like to leave it on all day, go out every 15 minutes or every hour and check it. I'd like to leave it on so that turning on and off isn't even an issue. But okay, there's a cord. I could turn it off. I'm not going to move the laser point. So I could turn it on when I do the measurement, make sure there's no boats there. And you could do it in the woods. Probably these lasers would not be super dangerous, but when you're close to it or by accident or it's outside, it could hit something sparkly. You probably want some glasses. Again, that means what about anybody else that's around or something at their house? So I admit there are those kind of difficulties. If I was going to do it, I think maybe I would just do it on my land where I know there's no other people inside part of the house, bounce it back in mirrors or something. But all of that seemed moot because while it might be fun a little bit, the motivation of this conversation to do it, I don't want to do it. And then somebody says, well, that I cheated, which obviously would happen. I find other people's experiments and I'm told that I'm lying, that I know those experiments were lies and I'm cheating and I know that. So to actually do the experiment, I have other things I want to build. I want to build kinetic water sculptures, for example. So I think it's on Gary to do the experiment and see which way the light bends. And I say, and I think you say, it won't bend. And Gary says that it will bend. And 1,000th the speed of light for the galaxy, for the solar system flying through space, that would be very noticeable. But also just the speed around the Earth would be very noticeable. Well, why should our only speeds be the speed around the Earth? It's also the speed of the galaxy. And that could be faster. Of course, I believe it's going around the center of the galaxy and would be moving, but all of those speeds should add up to something significant. So, all right. Cheers.